strange man was. He was focused on whatever had brought him to Haven Harbor. He didn't look around, greet anyone, or seem to notice one of his worn sneakers was untied. Curious, I watched him head south on Wharf Street until he was lost in the fog. I walked down the ramp to where Arvin and Rob were about to cast off.
"Morning, Angie," said Rob. "You're out early again."
"Who was that man?" I asked. I pointed to his skiff, gray as the morning. "The man who rode in." Arvin grinned.
"Guess you ain't never seen him before. He's a character, but he don't bother no one. Lives out on one of the islands beyond the Three Sisters."
"I didn't know anyone lived out there," I said. "Those islands are just outcroppings of ledges with a few trees on them. No houses that I remember. No water, no electricity. Just birds."
"Right," said Rob. "He don't seem to mind, though. Been out there a couple of years now."
"What's his name?" I asked. Arvin and Rob looked at each other. Arvin shrugged.
"Don't rightly know. Never asked. Folks in town call him the Solitary."
Chapter 2. Let spotless innocence and truth my every action guide, and guard my inexperienced youth, my vanity and pride. From Sampler Stitched by Dorothy Lancaster, 1781 to 1806, near Portland, Maine, in 1785. Dorothy used the old long S form for one S in her verse, perhaps copying it from an old book. By the beginning of the 19th century, most printers had dropped this letter form. I shivered in the damp fog. The solitary. Solitary. Alone. That's the way I felt this morning. It wasn't a good feeling. Who was he? How would it feel to live by yourself on an island? Islands beyond the Three Sisters were 3 or 4 miles offshore, far enough out so waters could be dangerously rough, especially in winter, too far out in choppy deep waters for a comfortable or safe row to the mainland. I looked down Wharf Street after the strange man. Where was he heading on this early morning? For no reason other than curiosity, I followed him. My years working for a private investigator in Arizona automatically kicked in. I stayed far enough behind him so the fog enveloped both of us. He walked easily, his slight limp almost unnoticeable, too able for any crippling disease I could think of. Maybe he'd slipped getting into his skiff and badly bruised his leg, or cut his foot on barnacle-covered rocks. I invented stories as I walked, following the uneven sound of his sneakers hitting the pavement, knowing I should turn around and mind my own business. The solitary didn't notice he had company. At the end of Wharf Street, he turned inland, up the hill toward the west side of town. I followed, staying close to the storefronts. The fog here, away from the harbor, wasn't as dense. If he turned around, he'd see me. A stranger who, like him, was wandering the streets of Haven Harbor just after dawn. I could smell fresh bread baking at the Thibodeau's patisserie 2 blocks away. I should end my foolishness, leave the mysterious man alone, buy a scone or croissant, and head for home. But as he walked farther, my curiosity grew. He turned right, past the hardware store. I paused, letting him get far enough away so he wouldn't see me. The sun was rapidly burning the fog off. A truck turned into the parking lot in back of the hardware store. Gulls cried over the harbor. During most August days, these streets were busy. This early in the morning, they were eerily still. I stood, listening. A door slammed. A car engine started. A crow in the distance called and was answered by a crow closer by. I walked to the